Good afternoon. My name is Orlando Gomez. I'm a Portland Fire and Rescue. Been on with them for 17 years, currently on Engine 20. And I've also I am a physical therapist now for 26 years. And so with both of those careers, I believe I've had a rather interesting take on fitness and performance within the fire service and other tactical occupations. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I want to start with a little bit of a scenario. It's 1 a.m. and the box tones go off and it's a first due residential for you. You're going to run to the engine or the truck and you're going to don your thousands of dollars worth of protective gear. You're going to put on your bunkers and you're going to get on a rig, an engine over $500,000, a truck $1 million or more. And you rely on those apparatus to get you there safely, quickly. But more importantly, you rely on that equipment to perform flawlessly. It's got a pump to get you water. It's got to get the ladders up to get you up on the roof to make the rescue. We rely on that equipment. Our departments spend a lot of money to maintain that equipment. But I would challenge you to say that those aren't the most important components on the fire ground. The more important component on the fire ground is you. It's you and the man or woman next to you, because if you don't perform your job to the level of demand required, that job doesn't happen. Or even if it does happen, you've now become a liability if you can't perform at your maximal level of performance. So that's what I'm here to talk about. We're going to talk about two main things, which is the demand of the job and the performance required to do that job. So the demand of the job scientifically has been proven to exceed professional athletic levels of demand of performance. That means that that job at any given time, from day 1 to year 30, at any given time will tax you to your absolute and ultimate limits. Mike Snodgrass talked about that in his firefighter survival talk a year or two ago. To utter exhaustion. And you don't need a scientist to tell you that. You don't need me to tell you that, because most of you have experienced that. You've come out utterly exhausted on all fours, probably throwing up on the grass. And guess what? Somebody's changing your bottle out. That'd be me as a driver. And you got to go back in. Can you do that? That's the question. So demand will not change. The question is your level of performance as a firefighter. When we talk about performance, in my facility we deal with professional level athletes all the way through to rehabilitation. So we run the gamut from injury to game day. And so we have boiled down performance into a couple of components, and we're going to talk about that now. And the first one, the most obvious, is strength and power, brute force. That's what I see more firefighters working on than anything else. And without question, it is utterly critical that you have the strength and the power to perform the job. Because not only are you 60, 70 pounds heavy getting off that rig, but now you're carrying equipment and performing tasks that are not only taxing from a physical standpoint, but they're diverse. You may, in my department, I may be tasked to be on a truck or an engine on any given day. So I may be up on a roof one day and the next fire I'm on a hose line. So you never know what you're going to run into. So your body has to be able to perform these tasks. So strength and power obviously is important. And then endurance. You have to be able to sometimes run a fire and it's going to be done in 4 minutes, but I've been on fires that lasted 2 days. And as a crew, you're being tasked to do one thing and another with, breaks in between maybe. But 12 hours on a fire ground is a long time to be moving around in bunkers and doing tasks. So endurance is equally as important. And over the years, I've seen big, strong firefighters, great firefighters. But when they go out and start forcing doors, after 3 or 4 whacks, they're done. They don't have the endurance. So all that big, strong size that they had, they weren't able to perform to their maximal ability. Conversely, I've seen endurance athletes, marathon runners that were firefighters. They weren't as strong as they should have been. So both of these are important. Both of these need to be addressed within your fitness programs, and if they're not, they should be. Next thing I want to talk about is what we call reactivity, how your body can react to the unpredictable environment that is the fire ground. Low visibility, adrenaline going, you never know what you're stepping on, uneven terrain, high-angle roofs, cutting, moving, searching. How well is your speed, agility, coordination, and balance? And all that can be done within a workout routine if you know how to design one. So if you're not doing it, start looking at how you can incorporate it within your routines. As importantly as performing is recovery. We talked about how you're going to have to maybe get another bottle and go in. I've been on fires as a driver where I changed out bottles on a crew for 4 different bottles, and they just turned around and went right back in. That's a tough, fit crew that was able to recover enough to go back to perform the tasks that they were asked to do. And a lot of guys I know would have a tough time doing that. So recovery is as important, and we're going to talk about how that is affected. But most importantly, I would say mobility. Mobility is a key component to how you perform, and it's one of the most neglected pieces of this puzzle that I see firefighters not addressing. Mobility isn't necessarily flexibility. Flexibility is important, but mobility is how your body can move through space, not only a joint at a time, but multiple joints at a time, to then not only move and get into awkward positions, but then create stability so you can create power. We're moving heavy pieces of equipment, hose lines that are resisting us at every step. Mobility is key. When you're searching, when you're going into high temperature environments, how low do you have to get, and can you stay that low comfortably? I've been on a fire, a basement fire, where I was on the hose line, and me and my partner, we pulled the victim out, and we went right in looking for the basement door. We finally found access, got down to the bottom, and just as I turned to start hitting it, we ran out of hose, first of all. That wasn't good. But then his bell starts going off. And I'm like, what is going on? I looked at my gauge, and I'm still 3/4 full. He didn't have the mobility or the endurance to maintain. He was sucking oxygen like crazy, and that caused me to come out with him, and I was not a happy camper. So the level of performance, that's what you have to ask yourself. That's a little meme there. Big and strong isn't everything. It's great. I'm not knocking it. But make sure you're adding endurance and mobility into what you're doing for fitness and performance. So let's talk about the environments. When I talk about environments, obviously the first one we consider is the fire ground. Now, when I talk about fire ground environments, I believe it starts when the tones go off in the firehouse. Because when you run out and put those bunkers on, we have injury reports that back injuries are occurring putting on your bunker pants. That tells me mobility, muscular imbalance is occurring. There's a weakness there, a risk of injury. Putting on turnouts, do you have the mobility in your shoulders just to get your arms in properly? We get shoulder injuries from that. Now you're getting into the rig. When you get off that rig, do you realize you're now 60, 70 pounds heavier with the turnouts and the SCBAs? And now you're stepping off high steps. Do you have the range in your hips and knees? We get knee and ankle injuries coming off of rigs. So again, mobility is key here. And then, being 70 pounds heavy, now you're grabbing all that gear. Now you're another 50 pounds, and you're going up ladders and just doing all the tasks that we talked about a little bit ago. So the fire ground environment is really going to be taxing to you, and that will not change. Now, most importantly is, what is your physical environment? What condition is your body in when those tones went off? What's your level of fitness? Have you been keeping up with it? Throughout the span of a career, and I've been at it 17 years, I can tell you I've done this. With my fitness regime, my accountability. It's tough, but it's important. And so how are you physically? Another thing to consider is I see a lot of firefighters, and they've been my backseaters with me. They're nursing injuries. They're walking around not quite right. They're off balance. They're compensating for injuries that they're not either dealing with, they're ignoring. And when you have an injury, what happens to the joint that's injured? Your body wants to protect it, so now you start immobilizing that joint unconsciously. You don't even realize it, yet your brain says go. It doesn't care if you're dragging a leg behind. By golly, I'm going to get there. And now you're compensating, creating stress in other parts and pieces. Many times as a clinician, I see injuries. They come in for one injury, but when you start taking a history, they've had 3 other injuries that they never addressed, and it was just a cascade effect. So if you're dealing with an injury, you need to be proactive about that. You need to go out and assess and figure out what to do about it, and we're going to talk a little more about that in a little bit. So at my facility, we work off of 3 primary principles when we look at fitness as well as rehabilitation. The first is we know the body has a certain blueprint. We all have the same body parts and we all have the same build, the same anatomy. And we know that from a frontal view, your shoulders and your hips should be square, should be even. They shouldn't be twisted or turned. And from a side view, we should be vertically stacked. Those are bones that we're looking at in essence when we look at posture. And the only reason a bone is out of position in a standing position like this is that muscles are pulling on it in the wrong ways. It's called muscular dynamic tension. And muscular dynamic tension can be affecting your body starting from birth. Whatever you've done throughout your life can affect how that muscular tension is affecting your posture and your mobility and how you move through space. So as a clinician, this is the first thing I look at. We take four-sided pictures, which is something you can do at home, and then look at yourself. How straight am I? How off am I? How rotated am I? Because a lot of our tasks will place stresses into our body that will actually mobilize joints like a chiropractor would, but using your own muscular energy. And if you don't understand it and counter that and fix that, it can become a problem, and it'll lead to injuries down the line. So understanding the blueprint is the first one. And your posture can be changed. Imagine trying to work and move with different postures. And this is the same guy, but this is reality. I've seen clients in all different postural imperfections that you're seeing here. The second philosophy that we follow is that we're adaptive organisms. The demand you place into your body will cause your body to react. If you place resistance on muscle, what happens? It gets stronger, it gets bigger. If you place load on the bones, they get denser and stronger. If you put cardiovascular resistance into your cardiovascular system, you gain endurance. But workouts have two things. They have positive effects on your body, they have negative effects on your body. And that's what we look at as professionals at our facility is, what is the exercise doing to your body? Is it good or bad? Is it creating the imbalances we just witnessed? Is it limiting your mobility? Big and strong is great, but if it decreases your mobility, you're decreasing your ability to output power and strength with the muscular strength you're trying to gain. The same with endurance. And so you're an adaptive organism. The other piece of that is if you stop working out, sedentary, now you start losing all that strength and mobility and endurance, and it happens pretty quick. We all know that. So adding demand into your body is important, but in the right proportions, like a recipe. And lastly, we are stimulus-dependent creatures. The human body requires stimulus to survive, to exist, and to be healthy. And you look at babies, they have to move all the time. Kids move all the time. They can't stop because the body requires it. But as humans, we pigeonhole into just specific movements, specific trainings. And again, it can limit the mobility that we have. And so stimulus dependent means, like I said, oxygen, water, nutrition, but also movement. So I would challenge you all to begin moving on a regular basis. And I'm going to give you a tool that's going to start this ball rolling. Now, the first thing to do is assess where you are personally as far as performance. This is a 5-level system that we use to assess all of our athletes. And it's just a way for you to look at yourself. When we look at level 3, for us, we have general classes, and this is where level 3 starts. It's somebody who has good physical fitness, average, and they can handle an exercise class without any ramifications. Their risk of injury is very low because they have all the parts and pieces we talked about performance. Level 2, it's important to note, it's someone who has aches, pains, tweaks that limit their ability to move properly. It's limiting their ability to exert force. It's that tweak, it's that ache that you get getting off the engine going, wow, that didn't feel good, but I'm just going to ignore it. I see a lot of firefighters in this level 2 category because what are we first? Stubborn. We don't want to go off on injury leave, right? But this is what worries me because I have been on rigs with guys who have been so compromised that it concerned me as a firefighter that if I was in trouble, this person was not going to get me out. Or they were going to hurt themselves doing it, and that's great to hear. I'll hurt myself getting you out. I'm like, that's not good. So level 2 is where you don't want to be, and level 1 is the acute injury I see as a clinician. And I've seen some people that are borderline 1, 2, to be honest. Ideally, if everything's healthy and we're strong and we're mobile, everything's dialed in right, we're level 4 and level 5. That's the high-end athlete for us. That's the athlete that we're talking about within the fire, police, and military, where we can just go at the drop of a hat and do all those dynamic tasks that we're asked on the fire ground, and we're going to come out of that pretty good. We're going to be taxed, but we can go back and do it again the next hour, the next day. So ideally, you should be level 4, level 5. So again, just a way to gauge yourself. So what I want to leave you with, and there's a link to this on the YouTube link that you're going to get. This is what we consider our movement supplement, our total body supplement. It's just one part of a bigger program that we have, so if you want information on that, you can contact me. But you're going to use this in 3 ways. And you can see there are 10 exercises, nothing hugely dynamic, but it moves your body in every joint, every direction. And this is what we consider to be minimal ingredients for performance. And so the way you're going to use this is first and foremost as a self-assessment tool. You can do this yourself in the basement, in the station, do it as a crew, assess each other, or just use it for yourself. And what you're going to do is you're going to perform each of the exercises in the repetition shown, and again, there's a link to it if you want it. And as you go through this, if you can do all the range of motion properly and you have no problems, then that's great. That's a good indicator that you have good mobility, good endurance, decent strength, right? If you have difficulties, you're just tight and it's just not moving the way it feels like it should, you're going to use the same routine, and I'm going to show you how to do that, as a supplement to help mitigate those problems that you're encountering. Now, having said that, if you do this as an assessment and you have red hot pain or you cannot perform one of these exercises, I'm highly recommending you go to a health professional, be proactive, figure out what's wrong, don't ignore it, because that's the red flag. You don't want that. So this is where it's a key assessment tool. And again, those guys and ladies that are ignoring issues, this is where you can uncover it and figure it out. Let's deal with it early. If you deal with an injury early, it's much easier to deal with and rehabilitate than if you wait and it just gets compounded and gets worse. So use this as an assessment tool. Secondly, you're going to use this as a warm-up and a cool-down. You're going to take the same 10 exercises, you're going to perform them in half to full repetitions from what's written, and you're going to perform it twice before your activity, your workout, and you'll do it again, half to full repetitions twice through after your workout. And there's your warm-up and your cool-down. And it's meant to increase circulation, increase your heart rate, maximize your mobility, and increase your neuromuscular efficiency. What that means is how your brain connects to your body. You know, that funky feeling when you start to work out and you're tired and you're just not moving right? That's what it's meant to do. So lastly, you can use this as a supplement workout, a maintenance routine all by itself. If you're to take those same 10 exercises and you perform them in this entire repetition all the way through 1 through 10, you do it 3 and 4 times in one session, do it once or twice a week, just by itself, that becomes your recovery routine. Again, maximizing your performance, your mobility, neuromuscular efficiency. So using it in these 3 ways, it becomes what we call the movement supplement. Just like on a hot day, what do you do on a hot day? You drink throughout the day, don't you, to maintain hydration, to maintain your preparation? You should be using this supplement, the routine, as just like water. You should be moving more often than you are instead of sitting in the recliner. So using this, maybe beginning and end of a routine just once would be at least something. So I'd encourage you to at least give this a try. It's been an effective tool for our clinic, for my clients. So I think it's something that could be useful for you guys. So with that, we know the demand of the job will not change throughout the lifetime of your career. What is going to change is your body. What your body needed at the age of 20 is going to change when you become 50. And how you add those ingredients to performance is going to change. So you should be focused on maximizing your performance, not only to meet the demands of the job, but also to afford you the lifestyle that you deserve when you end your career and enjoy it. Thank you for your time.
Today I'm going to be showing off the G1 SCBA with the newly released platform, which is 5500 PSI. Same G1 technology that we've all seen for the past 4 years, just a new option for PSI, 5500. So the same amount of air compressed into a slightly smaller package. This SCBA in particular does have the integrated thermal imaging camera, as well as integrated comms options and buddy breather. Then one of my favorite things about the G1 SCBA is going to be the central power source, one battery that powers all your electronics, including TIC in this one. So for more information, check out msasafety.com and go look at your G1 SCBA.